We just saw our own footage in Ladi and Margaret's video about insulation, titled When #vanlife sucks. Insulation mistakes they keep making. Did we make a mistake? In this video, we will shed some light on the whole spray foam discussion and share with you our experiences and our journey with spray foam. For those of you who are new to this channel, my name is Ida, and together with my boyfriend Tobias, we converted this beautiful Ford Transit into a camper van. Now we have traveled through Europe for 3 months, and we are normally based in Norway. I'm going to take you with me on our spray foam journey. Why did we choose spray foam? How was it when the van had been spray foam? How was it to get it back? How much work did we have to put in? And of course, how is it to live in this van right now? And if you stay to the end, I will let you know if Margaret was right. Did we make a mistake? So why did we choose spray foam? For us, there were several needs and considerations that we had to take into account. First off, we needed a van that kept the heat really well, since we live in Norway and that's a really cold climate. And also we didn't want to compromise with the insulation taking up too much space, making the living area in the van smaller. That being said, spray foam is probably the insulation available for vans that has the highest R value. So for us, that was kind of a plus on the spray foam side. Also, we needed something that was a really good vapor barrier, because we have hobbies that include, or our favorite hobbies are hiking, biking, and skiing, which are hobbies that generate a lot of water and mud. So we needed our clothes to be able to dry during the night. If it was wet in the van, we needed to be able to dry up. And also, we really enjoy cooking. And cooking as well generates a lot of moist. So we needed a really good moisture barrier in the van. Spray foam is supposed to save you time. So we figured, that's nice. It didn't really save us time at all. We'll get back to that later. There are several downsides to spray foam, and the important thing is to be mindful and aware of this. We discussed a lot around the downsides. We did tons of research. So the first obvious downside is cost. Spray foam is quite expensive, especially if you outsource it, which we did, but I'm not sure we would be able to actually reduce the cost with a different alternative, because we need a really high R value and those products are expensive. Also, we'd have to add a vapor barrier, which would add to the expenses as well. So not so sure we would be able to reduce the cost. And then spray foam is really permanent, like Margaret said. She also said that spray foam is pretty much like a rock. And I like to add though, that it's a very light rock. It doesn't weigh that much, which is a good thing. Anyhow, spray foam is permanent, so you need to be really mindful about everything that you build before you add the spray foam to make sure that you haven't made any mistakes, that you don't need to add anything, because removing spray foam, it's really tricky. Also, with regards to the whole permanent thing, we're never gonna use our van for anything but a camper van. We're not gonna make it into a cargo van or a personal car or private car. It's always going to be a camper van. So that whole permanent aspect for us, it wasn't really that relevant. And the third one, it's all over YouTube when it comes to spray foaming, which is warping. And we were really concerned about warping as well. Therefore, we did tons of research about it. We spoke to the guy who were doing the spray foaming for us, and he said that he couldn't guarantee that we wouldn't get any warping. What we did was that we closed off all holes where spray foam could access, where it didn't have space to expand. Because when spray foam can't expand, that's when you see the warping. So we were really vigilant about this. This also means that we had to do a lot of insulation ourselves afterwards, going in and filling out those little holes to make sure that we didn't have any of those, like, cold bridges, I think it's called. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Another factor to spray foaming is time. A lot of people think they will save a lot of time in spray foaming, and that's also one of the points that Margaret mentioned in her video, that you will save time in spray foaming. However, that is not our experience at all. And the one major reason why is because spray foam is so permanent that before you do the spray foam, you need to spend so much time to plan everything out, to build everything perfect, that will be so much more time consuming than if you could do things in parallel and iteratively and learn, because that's not an option when you have spray foam. Therefore, when you do the framing and the electrical conduit, which is the most time consuming things at this point, you will have to think about where you put every single stud so that you can secure everything really well. afterwards. And also you need to think about when you pull your electrical conduit, like where do I want my 12-volt outlets? Where do I want my fan? Where do I want my downlights? You need to plan out the whole layout of your van before you start doing the spray foaming. And for us, that was really time consuming, and it was really frustrating because we were standing there with an empty cargo van and we had to envision everything, which is really hard. And then lastly, it's the preparations itself for the spray foam. This is a small piece of the puzzle, but it's a very important piece of the puzzle. Like I said, you want to make sure that spray foam doesn't access any holes where it can't expand out. So you need to seal all those holes. You need to seal off your windows if you have any. Seal off like the space here going up to the driver's area. And it needs to be tight. No foam can get through. So this actually takes up a lot more time than you'd think because you have to be so vigilant with everything. So what happened when we got our van back? First off, we had no warping, 0. And we were super excited about this. We were so happy about it. When we opened the door to our van, it was like walking into a meringue. He had gone completely rogue. Like one of our viewers commented that we had a rogue spray foamer. And I think he's right, because it was just completely overwhelming. And this means that we ended up having hours of grueling work getting the excess spray foam off. This, however, is not always the case. We watched Eamon and Beck's video and they had like a little bit on the floor. And that's it. So I think it was way better for them than it was for us. When we were done removing the excess spray foam, the spray foam turned into kind of like this dusty thing. And let me tell you, it got everywhere. Everywhere. Into every little hole or canal that wasn't sealed off. It was a complete nightmare. We were haunted by spray foam for months. And every time we closed the door, spray foam just like fell down on the seats. I mean, we went insane. So we ended up getting like a industrial vacuumer to just like vacuum the whole thing. That really helped. But that was a mess. But on the good side, when we got our van back, it was 20 minus degrees, Celsius degrees in Norway. So we actually felt the instant change in the insulation of the van. Being back in the van working, it was actually possible without freezing your fingers and toes off. It was actually really warm. When we ran the heater, it stayed warm. It was really nice. Also, when we drove the van felt sturdier, and also a lot of the noise was reduced. So that was really good. So what is it like living in this van with spray foam as an insulation? The climate inside the van is perfect. Well, I think perfect, it's not an exaggeration, it actually is perfect. The spray foam works just like an insulator is supposed to do. It keeps the heat out when it's really warm, and it keeps the cold out when it's really cold. Let me elaborate. We've used the van during winter months. You can check out our Van Life Norway video to see how it is to actually live in the van during the winter months. When it's really cold outside, we run the diesel heater, and that heats up the van really well. Because we are so well insulated, we actually keep the heat until we let it out. So let it out, that would be either through the fans or through the opening any of the doors. So if it's really cold, we might run the diesel heater during the night, but it's usually never necessary if we run it during the evening before we go to bed. Then we keep the temperature during the night. What is interesting is that when we travel places where it's actually really warm and we end up being parked in the sun and in the heat during the morning sun, the van doesn't get warm. It keeps the same temperature as we had the evening before. So we have a very cool climate in the van, making us able to sleep really well and sleep well into the morning if we want to. And when we wake up, it's actually pretty cold in the van. So what we've had to do several times is actually open the doors to let the heat in. So I would say the spray foam as insulation works really well. And if you want to know how it is to live in this van during the summer, you can check out our Van Life Europe playlist up there. Next up is we can really feel the difference in the constructional strength of the van. It feels stiffer and sturdier. We've driven on a lot of really rough, tiny roads here in Europe, and we've been quite nervous about the van, but not a screw has loosened. And One of our hypotheses, let me say it's not exactly backed up by science, is that spray foam is a contributor to this because it does make the van stiffer. Like Margaret said, it's like rock. As I mentioned before, our main hobbies is skiing, biking and hiking. It generates a lot of wet and muddy clothes, and during this 3 months when we've been traveling, we've had a lot of wet clothes as well. Also, bear in mind that we have a shower in our van, but with the insulation that we have combined with the diesel heater and the 2 fans, we actually are able to keep a really dry climate in our van, which means that we can dry our towels, we can dry up our bike gear, our skiing gear. Now we're gonna get a dog soon, and she won't get cold either because the indoor climate is so good. And she's also an Arctic dog, so I guess she would handle the cold, I think. So the question remains, did we make a mistake? Van building is really tedious, and as with everything in life, there is really no silver bullet. There is pros and cons with every decision that you make. I feel as if with this spray foam thing, we went through hell and back. And if you had asked me an hour after we got our van back if we made a mistake, the answer would have been a definite yes.
If we had known that it would be this bad.
But after living in the van, experiencing all the benefits of having this insulation that we have, the climate that we have, the heat it's able to keep, the cold it's able to keep, then I would say it was worth it because the benefits outweigh the hard work. Also, now we have a really funny story to tell. We've been talking a lot about spray foam now and why we did it, but if you want to see how the whole process was, then check out this video. It will take you through the whole process. Also, our van is done. We've been traveling through Europe with it for 3 months now, so if you want to check out our newest van tour to see how this van turned out, then check out